Next on the agenda is the new federal school lunch guidelines. Jeff Denton will give us a presentation on this. This is one I've been looking forward to personally.
Me too. As many of you know, I thoroughly enjoy talking about our passion, and that's child nutrition. I know a lot of people that say, how can that be a passion? But it is. 25 years of serving children, and that's a big deal. I had a principal tell me a few years ago, she said, she was trying to compliment me, she said, you're a necessary nuisance. And I thought, well, okay, I'll take that. That's a compliment. I guess I am. And the thing is, when kids come home from school every day, parents want to find out what went on. They may not talk about their geometry test. They may not talk about what they did in history, but they will always talk about lunch. And that is something that is a common topic. And if you've watched the news the last couple of years, you realize that we are on the news about every night. And so it's something that is very important to us. And it's so important to me tonight that I brought our management team, because these are the ones that really make it happen. They're the ones that they're in the trenches, and many of us have been together for years and years and years, and they are the success behind this program, and they're sitting there terrified right now that I may ask them to speak. But they know me well enough to know that probably won't happen, but I want them to be prepared, and so they're right here, and they're an incredible team. And last May, we had 2 of our long-term managers retire. And so, but we've brought in more, and they've hit the ground running, and they've done a wonderful job. So tonight, what I'm going to try to do is be as brief as possible, which is very difficult for me. Not bore you, but give you information and not try to blame anybody. Okay. Except knowing how to use the remote control. So, all right. Now, our programs, we have quite a few programs. And a lot of people say, why do you call it child nutrition programs? Because there's breakfast, lunch, summer dining, catering, and education. All of those are together under one umbrella, and you're going to see a little bit about, probably more about breakfast and lunch and education than you are about any other area tonight. I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview so you kind of understand the magnitude of what we do and how we do it, and then I'm going to get into a little bit of the details about some of the new regulations. We're estimated 6,000 meals or transactions a day. That's a lot of chicken. Our budget is $3.8 million. Our total revenue is $3.2. Our fund balance is $680,000. Our payroll runs about $1.6 million. We have 70 staff members, 11 serving sites, and we operate a warehouse and delivery system. So it is Northern Oklahoma's largest restaurant operation. We do a lot. If we took our small amount that we charge for a meal and put it on an industry standard of maybe $6 or $7 a person, we would be close to about a $7 to $8 million business. That's a lot. Financial information, I'll talk just a little bit about that. We have 3 really major funding sources: federal, state, and local, with federal being the largest, and I'm going to show you in just a minute about that. When we talk about local funds, we're talking about money from people in the community, from our customers, from our students, not really from the local budget. Expenses we have payroll and all the associated costs with payroll. A lot of people are really surprised that we pay part of our operating, part of that chicken day meal that you buy pays all the payroll. It pays the retirement and what other health insurance we have with that. Workers' comp, it pays for all of those. We are a self-sufficient organization that pays our way in this district. And food and supplies, transportation, travel, we even pay utilities. We pay the district, or we pay district utilities of $35,000 a year. Any equipment replacement, any maintenance to that, any improvements that we do to our facilities, we pay that. And so that is a real important thing for the public to understand, as well as the board, because we're not a financial burden at all on this district. And that is critical to understanding how what we're doing with the new regulations is such a big deal and how it has affected us financially. I put in there our fund balance because you probably saw back there that we had $688,000 in a fund balance. That is just like the district's fund balance. And, the state regulates the fund balance unless they get in a deregulated year. And that is our money to operate off of until we get a reimbursement from the federal government. And we may not get a reimbursement until October 1st. So we have to operate. The state and federal law requires us to carry forward a 3-month operating. If you look at that fund balance, that's not what we made last year. That's what we operate with. To give you an idea, in one kitchen alone, we have 14 ovens. Each oven costs $4,000, just for half. Well, it's $8,000 for a double stack. And if any of those go out, we have to replace those. We have a huge payroll. We have to pay those folks prior to us getting reimbursed. A dish machine is close to $50,000. They're not cheap, and they have to be replaced on a regular basis. Vehicles, all the things that we do, we have to have that money for our operating. And then the other thing about it is that it's federal law that only we can spend it on child nutrition. So it's something that this crew of people have worked diligently on keeping over the years. And it's been damaged a little bit in the last 2 years, simply because what I'm going to talk about in just a minute, we're not able to add to it as we were in the past. But that's years and years of accumulation to make sure that we are not costing the district any money. If you look at our last year's reimbursement totals, a lot of people have said, why don't you just opt out of the federal lunch program? That's $2.3 million. I'm not sure I want to opt out of that. That's a lot of money. Our state, they have to participate with a $43,000 a year amount, and then what we get from just student meals, adult meals, $625,000. When we're looking at a 66 to 67% low income for our district and our customer base, we can't afford to opt out of the federal program. So that means that we have to go by the federal regulations that I'm getting ready to talk about in just a minute. I've met with several school districts around the state and advised them to get out of the National School Lunch Program, but their local or free and reduced count is under 8%, and they could be far better off not taking the federal money. They could have a lot more freedom to generate cash flow through a la carte sales and still fund low-income meals. And their biggest concern was the accumulation of low-income information. The child nutrition program is who accumulates at our expense all of the low-income numbers. And of course we have to in order to serve the students. And so that's quite a process. We have a staff member that's pretty much what they do, plus other staff members. I mean, we probably have 1.5 staff members. They accumulate income information to determine eligibility. That's a big deal. And so a lot of the state foundation incentive money is based on low income. And so it's a big number, and we need to make sure that's right. On our end of it, we are audited on that every year that they come in and look at all of our applications, and I'm real protective of those numbers to make sure they're accurate, because if they're not, then they take away the meals, and we're stuck with funding that. It's a big deal to us, and it is to the district, but it's really a big deal to us. If you look at what we're reimbursed for our meals, this is this year's reimbursement, and it rises a little bit. But for a free lunch, and I only did lunch here, free lunch is $2.98. For those students who qualify for a free meal, that's $3 that we get from the federal government after we've performed to their expectations. Reduced is $2.58, which means we get another 40 cents from the student. Full price is whatever we're charging at that size. We get a 28-cent price that we get in addition to what they pay us. The only control that a district has over pricing is the full price. And the state law, or the federal law, excuse me, has mandated how much we have to increase that every year until we're up to the level. we're pretty far from that. Our highest meal is $2.35, and they want us to be on the federal level of the $2.98. And so every year we're going to see a 10-cent increase for the rest of our lives. So that's just part of it. Now, the thing about that is all of this, we have to perform first. The unique thing of child nutrition, and you're going to see that here in a minute, is that the federal government, the USDA, and I'm going to show you kind of how that works in a minute, tells us what we can and can't serve as far as items, not specific items, but groups. And they can tell us how much or how little or what guidelines we have to follow. We have to follow that. And then if we follow that and prove that we followed that with supporting documentation, then we get paid for it. Unlike some other areas where you get your money first and then you do what you're told to do. We have to do it, prove that we're doing it. Now, you combine this with us being a business, which, we're almost a $4 million business where we have a customer base who are our students who we're only as good as our last meal. And so not only do we have to follow the federal rules, but we also have to please our customer. And so we're way up there in our participation in the mid to high 90%, which is one of the highest in the country, and is definitely the highest for a school district our size with our low income status of 66 to 67%. And so this is something that we have to work with and make work. We have to be able to serve a meal for $2.98 and come out without costing the district any money. And we do that, and we have done that. Now, the interesting thing below full price, it says 6 cents, and that's just that's real neat. I put 6 cents and 6 cents. In the new guidelines, they agreed, the USDA, to pay us 6 cents a meal for lunch if we followed their guidelines and proved we did it. Now, this is real catchy because we have to follow their guidelines and prove we did it. But we had to go through a process. And just to give you an idea, Linda Turner, who is our manager at our senior high school, she and I, 2 years ago, how many weeks? 6 weeks? In order to prove to the federal government that we designed menus that met the guidelines, this is what we called our horse blanket. This is what we did for 6 weeks. And I kid you not, we were up there late at night, and I'm surprised they didn't call the police because Linda and I would argue so much about that. And everything that she has right here, we had to go through a process that was unreal by the USDA to prove that we could get the 6 cents. And there were many times where I said something about the 6 cents. We don't really care if we get it or not, but we have to do it anyway. But if we do it, we got it. But in a minute, I'm going to show you. And in your packet, I'm going to show you how we do it now. But this was so foreign to us, so very foreign. This is one form and worksheet that took us, I kid you not, 6 weeks to determine if we could meet the new guidelines. So, thank you, Linda. You didn't have to say anything. Our state matching, this is what the state provides. It's based on October participation. They have a pool of money, and it's $5 to $6 million. And this is something that I have worked diligently on with the state legislator and the leaders of the Education, House, and Senate to not cut that, because the state has to provide that money in order for us to get all that other money. And so that wasn't a real hard sell, but it was important to us that not be cut, and it never was. And it has proved to be a good move. The full price meals, of course, you control the price of that based on our recommendations. A la carte meals, which have pretty much gone away at this year, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, and then other rebates. So that's how we generate our revenue. We are regulated by the USDA in the Farm Bill. This is huge for us. It is a $9 billion part of the budget for the USDA. It's gigantic. The state, we are educated by the State Department of Education. Let's go back a little bit on the USDA and the Farm Bill. Where you get into a little bit of difficulty, and we'll see this, is the USDA is caught in between the executive branch and the legislative branch of government. And so they're trying to answer to both and please everybody, and what they really do is irritate everybody. So that everything that we do comes from them, then it flows down through the State Department of Education. Been a big issue this year, this past legislative session, on whether or not child nutrition should be moved to the Department of Agriculture because it is under it on the federal level. But that didn't happen, but it may. We work with the Department of Human Services on our commodities. We're regulated and inspected. Now, keep in mind, we are reviewed and audited by all of these folks on a regular basis. And then locally, district administration, we have to follow district rules on everything from purchasing to hiring to employee grievances. Of course, the school board on our funding, our purchases, our health department, we have to answer to them. And then we also have to answer to the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture. So it's not as, sometimes people think it's just a bunch of us that get together and decide today we're going to have pizza. It's not. It's extremely intentional on everything we do. Now, here's what we're looking at. Compliance with the new regulations. In a minute, I'm going to show you a little bit about the new regulations and the difficulty that we have with complying with them. Not because we don't think good nutrition is important, but simply because it was never tested or piloted. The USDA contracted out to the Institute of Medicine to determine the child nutrition regulations for all the schools. The Institution of Medicine is somewhat of a think tank on the East Coast made up of mostly pediatricians and dietitians who have never, ever darkened the door of a school. And so we'll touch that in a minute. But that 6-cent tool came under that. We're showing, and you'll see a little bit more, that 6 cent, the compliance with the new regulations are almost 50 to 60 cents more a meal than 6 cents. Staffing is a challenge because of the regulations that we're facing. And also just the labor pool in this area is very difficult. When you have that many casinos in this area, it's very difficult to keep and hold employees, and that's something that we're looking at. Rising costs of everything. Anybody in business knows that. Maintaining participation levels is highly critical. It's something we do. We have to have participation to make it work, and we're, like I said, in the mid-90s. We're doing well, but we have to maintain on a regular basis. And then new menus, products, recipes, and reporting. The reports that we have to do now are unreal. And just, we just have personnel, that's what they do is report, which seems really crazy for what our original plan was. This is the situation where cause met reality. In these three areas, the Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act of 2010 and the Smart Snack, which is really the one that's got everybody upset now. The Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act of 2010, the child nutrition people were concerned and upset, but then the Smart Snacks is where the federal government went from preaching to meddling, and it's really upset a lot of folks, and I'll update you on that. And then the unintended consequences of that reality. The Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act of 2010, it was child nutrition is authorized or reauthorized every 3 to 5 years, just depending on the way they structure the bill. So it's up for reauthorization this year. And this is something I do a lot of on the federal level is work in that area. And everything that happened on the Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act of 2010, all of the child nutrition folks around the country were totally asked to leave the room. And we had zero input on it, none. And so we did it first, but after a while we didn't. And as I'm not griping, I'm just saying it never had been tested. In all the years I've been in child nutrition, every new regulation that's came down from the USDA has been tested and piloted in different markets to see what they needed to do. This didn't happen. It was rushed into effect. It didn't happen. And that's where I said where cause met reality. The cause of the situation was we need healthy kids. The reality is that the health guidelines that they set up cause so many other problems, and we see that in the district and statewide with testing and evaluation of programs and things like that. the cause was good, but the implementation was poor. In this, they eliminated the nutrient-based menus. Ponca City Schools has been a nutrient-based menu school since 1992. Nutrient-based menus, it said we look at the entire meal based on nutrients with vitamins, minerals, calories, fat, sodium, those things, and we look at accomplishing it in that area. Now every school in the country is on food-based menus where we look at food groups instead. And I know that's really boring, but the thing is that you say, well, I don't get what the big change is. It's a huge change because it began to dictate specific things that we had to do every day rather than over the course of a week. And we were able to accomplish them greatly over the course of a week, but daily it's a little bit different. The biggest thing on that is the mandatory fruit and vegetable minimums. And in fact, Liz, if you want to go over there and grab that sign, the thing that changed in this 2010, which really didn't come into effect until July of 2012, was the way that we set up our menus to where we had to have fruit, vegetable, dairy, grain, protein, and vegetables. So I missed the vegetables. And so not only did we have to have them, but we had the mandated minimums and maximums of those. And that's why Linda and I it took us so long, and we were one of the people that really got it done fast in the country. Other schools really had a hard time. One of the things they did is mandate that we have these signs at the beginning of every line. That was a $5,000 expense for us. That was very expensive to put those up, and then they have to be marked each day what the fruit is, what the dairy is, what the grain is, what's the vegetable, and what's the protein. In this thing, and I'm going to talk about subgroups here in a minute, of that, we're offer versus serve. Offer versus serve says that the student can refuse 2 of the items, and if you're offering 5, but they have to take a fruit or a vegetable. And I don't have a problem with that. That's makes good sense nutritionally, but in the reality of the situation, it's very difficult to pull off financially because the amount of fruit and the amount of vegetable that they're requiring us, which you're going to see here in a minute, to serve is far more than the student can eat when they're sitting down for a meal. It's more than I would eat. And then on the protein area, it's a far cry from a good amount. You know, we're looking at a 4-ounce serving for a high school grown boy or grown girl. 4 ounces is a very small amount of meat for somebody who's growing like that and maybe participate in athletics. In that vegetable subgroup, and we'll see in a minute how that works, but there's 5 groups. There's red, orange, dark green, legumes, starchy, and other. The majority of the vegetables that we eat in this area are others. And so we have to feature those on a regular, and during the week, the dark red, the red, orange, dark green, and legumes, we have to feature at least twice a week in order to offer the other 2 more than twice a week. It's boring stuff, I realize that. But that's where you're just going, this is killing us. And then the big thing is the sodium restriction, where they have made the restrictions so great that even renal patients in hospitals don't have to, theirs is greater than what we're doing. Again, it's where people making decisions don't understand what really is going on. They just grabbed a figure. And so, for example, you'll see this in a minute, our standard turkey and cheese sandwich totally exceeds the sodium right now, just the sandwich by itself. And then the protein and grain minimums and maximums, fortunately they lift the maximum on the protein and grains. Before, this is how crazy it was. It said that the elementary students could only have 8.5 servings of grain a week. So that means if you offer a sandwich every day, is like we do with the choices, that one of the days you would only have to give them half a piece of bread. I mean, that's how crazy this is. And of course, they're going, I don't see a problem with that. Just do an open-faced sandwich. So, all right. We're getting into this. The change in the programs is increased servings and fruits and vegetables. They're mandatory, not optional. Breakfast, we're looking at 1 cup. which is an incredible amount of fruit for a 4-year-old to eat. Sodium reduction, I've talked about that. It's not obtainable in the normal diet, and it doesn't allow for natural occurring sodium. The sodium level that they've given us is lower than what is a natural occurring in beef, chicken, pork, and their design was that we all go back to scratch cooking, but according to their where they have us with the sodium level, the only way that you can get any beef, pork, or chicken to be in that level is to take it to a plant and alter it. And we don't want that. 50% whole grains. If you've seen a whole grain biscuit, you know that you've just been defeated seriously. So it's just not, some whole grains are great, but breading on products is not. Flavored milk, not a big deal with that. And then the cost increase. We're looking at 45 cents for breakfast and at least 35 cents for lunch for us. We were already doing so many fresh fruits and vegetables that it didn't really matter. Now, we have for you tonight, and I know I've taken a lot of time, if we could have our group, we have some meal examples. And this is something that we think is important to do because several weeks ago, we were able to get an audience with Congressman Frank Lucas. And Congressman Frank Lucas is the chairman of the Ag Committee. And that was real important for us, and we had him for about an hour and 15 minutes. That's unheard of. And so we were able to show him different things. And so Liz is just kind of going to walk these by and show you.
These are a couple of elementary breakfast. The 1 cup serving of the fruits at breakfast, that's 2 whole oranges. And a 4-year-old's going to eat that in 10 minutes, right? And the fresh fruit, because it's so expensive, we do have other options. A cup of applesauce and raisins and juice can all add up to the 1 cup.
Okay, now we'll stop you there. Where other districts are really having problems, we figured a way out of this. You know, we would have to, for every student in the district, when we do fresh fruit, they'd get 2 oranges, 2 apples, 2 bananas. That's a lot. So we decided to kind of take it and get several different items and break it down, and they can refuse one of the items. So we have juice and an applesauce, and it not only cut our costs down, but it made it where it worked for us. Why other schools don't do this, I don't know. But we're not skirting the regulations, we're just using them to our advantage. The next one she has here is?
This is an elementary lunch. It's the chef salad option for the grains. They have to have 4 2-packs of crackers, the fruit, juice, and milk. Their vegetables and the protein are both in the salad. It's a chicken sandwich, baked beans, carrots, salad, applesauce for the fruit, and juice, and then milk.
And that's if they take everything that's offered to them. And again, the protein's too low, but the calories are keeping the protein down. So where we can't do a lot of
course, and crackers.
and so you can see and one of the things that people run into, and I see these stories on the state media, and I get occasionally a call from a parent whose child sent them a picture on their phone of their plate. And I'll say, well, did they tell you that all of this was offered, that this was offered? Well, no, they didn't tell me that. Well, that's because they want you to bring them lunch to school. And, you know, I usually get, well, my child never lies. And I said, well, okay, then we probably don't need to talk anymore. But
It's another elementary breakfast with showing the fruit, serving the 2 apples for the cup. Of course, we do the raisins applesauce because that's crazy. They can't eat that. This is the turkey sandwich that exceeds the sodium all by itself before you give them the broccoli grapes, oven fries, milk, and juice. It's a whole grain biscuit with sausage and egg on it. Turkey sausage.
okay, our next one, Linda.
This is from one of our 4 lines at the high school. We call it On the Fly because everything is packaged at grab and go. The kids want fast and speedy, so this is all the different things that we offer. They don't have to take all of it, but they grab it and it's all ready to go.
The thing is, they need to, there's plenty to eat if they take everything that they can. A lot of them don't. And so that's why we started pre-packaging our meals is so that they would at least get an opportunity to take some of the stuff.
Which cost us even more?
And this is our high school breakfast that we had today. We just put one fruit on there for the milk, they get 2 whole grain biscuits, sausage and the gravy. And this is our lunch we had on our main line today with the macaroni and cheese, salad, fruit.
Now, keep in mind that all of these meals we've ran through our software system. We've done the nutrient analysis because in the course of a week, on a daily average, we can't exceed certain calories or fat, and so we have to keep them in that area. So it's like doing a Sudoku puzzle to put the menus together.
And then these are 2 more lunches from 2 more of our high school lines. This is our Asian line. We've got the grain in our rice and vegetables, covered the red orange. And then this is out in our commons area, which we called the chicks line last year. That used to be just totally a la carte, so we had to redo that and make a meal. But we give them a basket meal, so they still get their chicken and they can still get their fries as long as we offer all the other vegetables and stuff.
And I'm going to talk about that in a minute, too. Your handout you have, and we're almost finished, but it has just a sample report from last week. And this is just our elementary consolidated report. We do this on every meal, every school, every day, every line. We do this report, and this is part of what I do, and what some of our other managers do too. We offer these choices, and so when they say there's not enough food, this is what they're getting to choose from. Of course, they can't choose a hamburger and a chef's salad and a peanut butter sandwich, but you can kind of tell where it drops off from the entree selections to that. So all of our sites everywhere, not just high school or middle school, all of them have at least 1, if not 2 hot entrees, 3 to 4 sandwiches, 3 to 4 salads. And that's one of the reasons we're successful with our participations, because we offer so many. And we offer all the other, now these are all the other items. These are the things that I analyze when I go into the software and make sure that we've covered everything. You look far over to the right, and you see the mandate where we have to cover the whole grain, certify that it's whole grain, dark green, red, orange, starchy, other and legume, to make sure over the course of the week that we've met all that. Now that if you page through that and look at that final report that's in color, you see that what we have to do to certify this same meal here, and this is the consolidated version of what Linda was showing you here, where if it says at the bottom, cells with the background color signifying not being met, we've met everything, but we're over on protein and we're over on grain, and that's on purpose because we really feel like the kids need more in that area. So, without dragging this out much longer, we talked about the subgroups. Let's talk just a little bit about the Smart Snacks. The Smart Snacks are the new regulation that came out this past year, beginning July 1st. And this is the one that where everybody else kind of woke up and said, now what? And the biggest thing is that it says right there, regulation for all foods sold on campus during the school day. All foods sold on campus during the school day. And I've been to workshops where it said all foods available on campus during the school day. And this is the new regulation where anything that comes onto the campus for student consumption needs to follow this. And so they must be whole grain rich. They must have at least the first ingredient, a fruit, vegetable, a dairy product, or a protein food, or a combination food that contains at least a quarter cup of fruit and or vegetable, or contain 10% of the daily value of nutrients set out by the USDA. And you say, well, how's that any different than what you're already doing? This isn't just us. This is everybody in the school, every organization, every person on campus, every fundraiser, everything that's done on campus, every vending machine, everybody. And it gets a little worse here. They must meet.
That's why you can't find a Butterfinger in the vending machine.
That's right.
Okay.
But we have a drawer that we'll sell you some out of, so they're a little bit old, but must meet nutrient requirements, calorie limits. The snack items have to be less than 200 calories. The entree items for us have to be less than 350 calories. The sodium limit, snack items 230, entree items 480, fat limits, total fat 35%, saturated 10, trans 0, sugar limits, and of course, soft drinks. Nothing other than diet to be offered. And when we do our sports drinks, and again, this isn't just us, this is anybody on campus, any concession stand, anything like that. Small schools are really having a problem with this, and so the state school board a couple of weeks ago decided to offer waivers, and what they didn't realize, they're just for 1 year. I watched that news report, and I didn't see that part covered, but that's the way it works. It's just for 1 year till they can figure out another fundraiser, so they're going to be back there pretty soon. I put a website just on your handout that you can go to. Unintended, and if you look at your last sheet on your report that I gave you, not the last one, the second to the last one, is the smart snacks in schools, before the standards and after the standards. And that just kind of tells you where we've gone and what we've done with this. This isn't our choice. This is something that schools do, have to do. My basic, and this is where I'm going to give you my opinion, I really, when it comes to healthy, hunger-free kids, I understand that. They give us the money, we follow their rules. They make the rules, we figure out how we work within the guidelines and still take care of our customers. This Smart Snack, they don't give us any money in this area. They have no business in our schools regulating this. This isn't something that they should be doing. And this is coming from someone who usually has their business cut short because somebody else in the school is selling something instead of the student buying with us. And I feel that strongly about it, that I don't think it's right that they're in the school telling us what to do when they have absolutely no regulation over it and they can't even audit. They can't even do it. It's just weird. Unintended consequences here, finally. Huge price increase on produce. This is one of the, all schools went from serving maybe a quarter cup to a half cup of fruits and vegetables twice a day to a cup. What it did to the produce market was unreal. They didn't anticipate that to happen. We had apples that were $16 a case within a couple of weeks for $48 a case. Not just for schools, but at the grocery store. If you went to the grocery store in 2012 and noticed that price of produce doubled overnight, that's why, because of the school lunch program and this crazy regulations. It affected the market really bad. It's come down now where suppliers have gotten better at it. We can't buy anything other than domestic produce. We can't buy the cheap stuff from Mexico or South America. We have to buy, which is a good thing, and that's what we should be doing. But it really keeps us from being able to afford to do it. The protein amounts for the high school students way off guard, and still the calorie for them, it's not enough. It's not enough for that age group. Can't get them enough of the calorie and the grain. We can get them all the fruits and vegetables they want, but we can't get them anything else. Storage space. We went from serving like I said, a quarter cup of a vegetable, a half cup fruit, to doubling that, and or tripling that in some cases. We would buy in August and in September about 60 or 70 watermelons a day, and or 40 a day. We went all the way up to 70 to 80 a day. If you would walk through the halls of our kitchen, you would just see stacks and stacks and stacks of watermelon. We don't have the storage space for all the fruit and vegetables that we need to serve. We only get 2 truck deliveries a week. So we have problems with that. A lot of schools had to buy all new equipment. We couldn't do it with what we had because of how much we needed to store. A lot of schools, we had to get new equipment. One of the weird ramifications of this is we had to start, our dumpsters were full because of just empty cans in the winter. We filled up our dumpsters where we had to increase our delivery and pickup, doubled our cost for sanitation. Unintended consequences, food waste because of time allowed to eat. Even if the kids wanted the food, there's not enough time for them to eat that amount of food. It's just a bunch of food. A little 4-year-old eating a cup of fruit, I can tell you what's going to happen with that 4-year-old, and I know that the teacher's probably going to spend a lot of time on bathroom breaks, and it's just a lot of fiber. The whole grain effect on breading, it's a very poor-looking product. Again, I'm not whining, but I'm just saying that this is something that we deal with, we have dealt with. we feel like we provide our students with a quality product, considering everything that we have to deal with to get that product from point A to point B, and it's these guys who make that happen. Your last sheet is just what we offer at the high school. If you ever have any student complain about the high school not having enough food, they're not telling the truth, except the first day of school when we had the hot corn dog incident. But it's a complicated program, but I really feel we have a grasp on it. I feel we're doing much better than the majority of the school districts around the country. We have visitors all the time. We had someone a week ago from a school district who had lost their director, and they were an outside company to come in and just said, this is the most amazing school lunch program we've seen. And we really feel like, because of the effort of these guys, that they have really, we've challenged them. And we sit down once a week and we try to figure out how to create that wheel a little bit better every day. And we haven't given up on that goal. And not only financially, but customer service-wise. And we really are wanting to be in tune with what our customer wants. And that's real important, and those are the kids. And when we say it's about the kids, we really mean it, because we make a lot of decisions that aren't best for us financially, but they are for the kids. So I've gone on long enough. I promised I wouldn't take that long. I could talk all day about this. It's an interesting program. So any questions that you would have?
I've got one comment and then a question. We were at a school board meeting this summer, and it's my understanding that the reason Jan can still sell Butterfingers at the high school basketball games is the school day ends at either 4 or 4:30.
Ends at 4:30. It's at
And then
12:01 a.m. to 4:30.
Basketball games are not under this concession stands.
They're not, and they shouldn't be
At
at
this
all,
point.
but even these small schools that have the tournaments, I've had them call me and talk to me. I said, sell your stuff. Go ahead and do what you've always done, because it wasn't intended for that. And I truly believe that in the next year, this problem is going to be, what I really think is going to happen is they're going to keep holding us to the standard and let the school off. So, but I really think that's going to, because that's kind of what I'm hearing. But
Then my other question has to do with, when you had your meeting with Mr. Lucas, this group that made all these rules, is there a process or a procedure? Is it going to take federal legislative action to get them to change?
Well, that's a good question for several reasons. One, the USDA farmed this out to the Institute of Medicine to write the law and write the regulations, and they paid them over $1 million to do it, and so they feel bound by that. In my discussion with both sides, with the USDA and with the legislators, is that the only thing the legislators can do is to withhold funding. That's all they can do at this point until it's reauthorized. But it has to be reauthorized based on the criteria set from the Secretary of Agriculture. And as you know, the Secretary of Agriculture is under the executive branch and is an appointed position, and as long as the executive branch believes that this is the right path, that's not going to change unless the funding is changed. Now, I hear that, and they were effective in doing it. When these first came out, they were only going to let us have potatoes once a week, a starchy vegetable once a week. And maybe on the East Coast or the West Coast, that's not a big deal, but here in the central part of the U.S., that's a big deal. And so the House of Representatives put in the writing of the bill that if you keep that in there, we're not going to fund the program. And they were able to take it out. I think that's the only thing that's going to work on them right now. But I think when reauthorization happens, that there will be some changing of this simply because it hasn't worked, not because of political views. It just hasn't worked. School lunch participation is down 1 million a day over the country because of these regulations. So
this is, Robin, this is on the radar for every education organization. It's not just the child nutrition people who are fighting this battle. We're all involved, and so we, School Board Association, secondary school principals, elementary principals, AASA, we all have our people working on this, and we're all trying to do the same thing, and that is get some common sense rules in place. But it is a problem, and it is a problem because as Jeff mentioned, I mean, the champion of this is the president's wife, and she's a believer,
And she's not
again,
backing down.
You know, and the objective is not bad.
No.
The objective is to reduce obesity in the United States, and especially of children. And I think that's a goal that we all want. Yeah, but it's like lots of things. It's the devil's in the details, and the details of this have not been positive for school lunch programs, and for every program that with what we've done here that has tried to make the situation work. You have lots of folks who haven't done anything but throw up their arms and holler that it doesn't work. And so when you have that happen, it makes it harder for regulators to decide that we really need it, because there's a lot fewer people who really tried to make it work. And you have lots of folks who are just complaining about it. And so when they do their audits, when they see those things, they say, well, you haven't even tried yet.
Right.
So how do you know it doesn't work? And so that makes it harder. So
Any
Jeff,
other questions for Jeff?
before,
Very good, thank you.
before Jeff steps away, we have an announcement to make that we've been holding on to. We didn't want this to be in the newspaper until we had a chance to recognize Jeff here tonight. We received this press release last week. 2015 National Fame Award winners announced. Scottsdale, Arizona, November 5th, 2014. Basic American Foods, Swan Foods Incorporated, and Tyson Foods Incorporated, which are the biggest supplier of food to child nutrition programs across the country, sponsors the 26th Annual Food Service Achievement Management Excellent, or FAME, Awards. Programs are pleased to announce the 2015 FAME Award winners. The FAME Awards' most prestigious honor, the Golden School Food Service Director of the Year Award, will be presented to, drum roll please, Jeff Denton, Director of Child Nutrition, Ponca City Public Schools. Denton is being recognized for his commitment to innovation in child nutrition in his 25-year career as the food service director. He is passionate about helping students understand the benefits of healthy food options, and is being recognized for his ability to successfully operate a challenging child nutrition program. I won't read all this to you, but I think it is, again, important to recognize that this is the top award in the nation for child nutrition directors. And so Jeff will be honored in their program, which I believe is in January in Scottsdale. Is that correct, Jeff?
Yes, sir.
So Jeff will be going to that, and I don't know, does your superintendent go and get a photo of it?
Yeah, you can go, yeah.
I think
I'm going to take these folks with.
January.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, thank you. That's only been 24 winners in the history of this. And it's kind of the Heisman Trophy of child nutrition.
Well, I think
That's how I look at it. But it's these guys that made that. They're as much to receive this award as anybody.
obviously, we're proud of Jeff and what he does, and it's like lots of people that we have in this district. We probably don't appreciate them as much as the local level is, or appreciate maybe at the state and national level. And Jeff will be one of those people that when he does finally decide to step away, that after we've done this for a few years, somebody's going to say, gee, it'd be nice if we had Jeff Denton back. So, anyway, thanks, Jeff. We
Thank you
appreciate
very
your
much.
time tonight.
Thank you.
Congratulations.